You are now entering the spoiler zone. The following podcast contains explicit plot details and pockets of profanity. You have been warned. The Exton Moss Experiment. Adventures in Wine and Space with Simon Exton and Ken Moss. Hello everyone, and a very warm welcome to another edition of the Exton Moss Experiment. I'm Ken Moss.
I'm Simon Exton.
And this time we are watching the early 1970s science fiction series Doomwatch. This was produced by the BBC and ran on BBC One between 1970 and 1972. The series was set in the then present day and dealt with a scientific government agency led by Dr. Spencer Quist, responsible for investigating and combating various environmental and technological dangers. Dr. Exton, this is one of your suggestions, and we're going to watch 4 episodes today, spread across the 3 series. I think first things first, though, we need a little drinky. This time we're drinking Barbican Botanics tropical gin with passion fruit, mango and pineapple. It's 40%, and the info bollocks, my goodness me, goes on a bit. Inspired by the romance of our adopted home on Plymouth's historic Barbican and its pivotal role in the trade of exotic fruits from distant shores, we bring you Barbican Botanics Tropical Old Tom Gin, a handcrafted small batch gin distilled using traditional methods in our 30-litre copper still. We hope you enjoy. Features fresh tropical notes on the nose and the palate, an undeniable smoothness and subtle sweetness from the mango, passion fruit and pineapple. Right. First things first, Dr. Exton, nasal appraisal.
Quite mango-y.
I'm looking forward to this one. Eyes down, dive in.
With a touch of orange.
Oh, that's very nice. That's lovely. I was expecting a more immediate reaction there.
It's a bit bitter.
Really? I can see what you mean. It's got a slightly bitter edge to it.
The fruit flavours are nice. I think it's a little bit overpowered by the bitterness. I think for what they're trying to do a sort of gin ting thing, that could do to be toned down just a little. But it's nice enough. It's a perfectly adequate 4.
That sings very nicely to me, and a lot of it is personal preference, of course. I can see where you're going with the bitterness, and it is there, slightly more than its gin-ting, but even so, I'm going to give that a 5 out of 5. I really like that one. Lovely stuff. So here we are, queued up and ready for the very first episode of Series 1. But first things first, we have a guest with us this time. Reveal yourself.
Hello. My name is Joe Ford. Do you know, I have to say, I've never really heard of Doomwatch before this, and I want to issue a personal thank you to both of you fine gentlemen, because I had an absolute blast watching this.
Marvellous, isn't it?
Oh, it is a bit.
Now, I do have some reservations, and I will talk about those as we go through. I do have some reservations because this is old TV now, so things don't date very well. But I think, do you know what? I've got a question for you, Per, actually, if I may, at the start.
Okay.
Is Doomwatch predicting a destructive future, or is it just scaremongering?
Oh.
Depends on the episode.
Yeah.
I think there are some that are definitely column A. I think there are some that are definitely column B. And there are a handful where the science was shonky even at the time, but only a small handful.
Before we actually settle down and watch these things, Joe, tell us a little bit about your podcast. Or podcasts.
Oh, well, this is my first one. I've never really podcasted before.
I know, you're a complete amateur, aren't you? You've no history. But let's just say in a parallel world, you've got 100 or so other episodes. What would they be?
100?
Oh, yeah. What are you up to now?
Well, I've got 700 episodes of A Hamster with a Blunt Penknife out there, which is a Doctor Who commentary podcast, which has been going for about 3 years now. And it's just like-minded Doctor Who fans coming on and literally talking all over your favourite programme and talking a load of bollocks. So
what
thank
we
you very
love.
much for everyone that listens to that. I've also got, do you want me to reel them all off?
Yes, I do.
Oh, you're very patient. Thank you. I've got a Star Trek podcast called Untitled Star Trek Project, which is commentaries as well, covering the entire sort of run of Star Trek from the original series to the present day. I have a Big Finish podcast, which I do with my other half, called Finish Big, where we insanely are going through the entire run of Big Finish. How much Big Finish do you gentlemen listen to?
Reasonable amount. When they first started, I religiously got all of the monthly releases. And as they got less reliably good, I got more selective about what I bought. And in the end, I've stopped buying the Doctor Who stuff because there is such a terrible signal to noise ratio. They do some excellent stuff, absolutely. But you have to plough through the dross to find it. And I just don't have time for that. So I rely on recommendations of what to listen to and, equally importantly, what not to listen to, and your Twitter feed is a big chunk of that recommendation.
Less reliable content. Do you know, that's a very polite way of saying it's gone to shit in later years, isn't it?
Can I just say once and future?
Well, quite. Yeah. No, do you know what? Your review of The Secrets of the Detsen Monastery was one of the most hilarious podcasts I've ever heard. You were not pleased with that one, were you?
Oh, wait till you get to the Lovecraft invasion.
Oh, I dread to think.
We are not kind to that one.
That's the worst review we've ever given of a Big Finish. I mean,
it's almost the worst review we've given of anything.
I think it is.
Count Arthur Strong was worse, but not by much.
Yeah, we both savage that. I mean, I'm a little bit more, almost exclusively Doctor Who with Big Finish. Simon will occasionally, he will have bought a spin-off series or just a completely unrelated series, and I will listen to it on the back of Simon. The Starcop stuff, I actually thought was really good.
I love their Starcraft stuff. Their Tomorrow People was brilliant, and I'm absolutely gutted that they didn't get to release the final season.
Well, I heard that the rights might be around again soon.
Which would be fantastic, because
they might be able to do it.
As I understand it, was all recorded.
Yeah, that's been a surprise to hear. But the podcast is basically us going through the entire run. So any sort of niche spin-off that they've done. And I've got to be honest with you guys, sometimes the spin-off stuff is actually a lot better than the Doctor Who stuff. They sort of throw the new exciting writers at the spin-off. So there's sort of a lot more interesting things going on. And then the old hacks like, well, I won't name any names. They're sort of churning out the Doctor Who stuff. And
there are 2 or 3 names now that seem to write all the Doctor Who, and it does show, unfortunately. But, I mean, some of the recent stuff that you've done, though, you did the Annihilators, I think, and you've done the Audacity series with Paul McGann. And both it sounds like they've turned a bit of a corner back to where they should be.
We're still hit and miss, because I've also done The Last Day recently, which is huge.
Yes, I heard that one, yeah.
Yeah, Sylvester McCoy, where they somehow forgot to include Sylvester McCoy in the story. So, it's hit and miss.
And you're right, some of their spin-offs are superb. The Sarah Jane was fantastic. I really enjoyed that. The first unit was pretty good. I really liked the Omega Factor ones. The Star Cops was excellent. Their Callan stuff was brilliant.
You talk about the Omega Factor. See, the thing I was thinking when watching this, Doomwatch, was why haven't they touched that?
I have thoughts about that. I don't know why they haven't touched it. I would have thought it's a very obvious one. If they do, I would really hope that they get somebody on board who knows science enough to make sure that it was in keeping with the original.
Who's our modern day kit peddler? Yeah, I'm not sure either, if I'm honest. Anyway, so
you want an honest answer?
Yeah.
Modesty refrains from saying, but I have about the same number of qualifications as Liz Shaw.
Big Finish,
double lot of
presented
doctorates
by Dr. Simon Exton.
Oh God,
coming soon.
No, not me in front of a microphone. Absolutely not. But if they
just imagine.
If somebody doing Doomwatch wanted me to review script, and I've done script reviews for TV and films before, if they wanted me to look through the science, I absolutely would. And not being big-headed, I'm kind of a polymath when it comes to science because I've doctorate in chemistry and higher qualifications in chemistry and a medical doctor and higher qualifications in medicine. I kind of know what I'm talking about.
Shall we veer back to TV and give ourselves a critique of the 4 that we've watched? We're going to kick off with the very first episode. It's season 1, episode 1, and it's called The Plastic Eaters. A plane dissolves in mid-air, its plastic components eaten away. Doomwatch faces its first challenge, to halt the disastrous spread of a man-made virus with the power to melt all plastic. This was transmitted on BBC One on the 9th of February 1970.
Well, is it or isn't it?
Yes, it is. Undeniably variant 14. Where did you find it?
In Miss Will's office. Her cousin was a stewardess on the crashed plane.
And Miss Wills visited the lab with you, Minister?
Well, of course she did. Do I understand that your precautions were ineffective?
I can't understand it. The isolation procedures are 100% effective.
Quite so, but exceptions are apt to be lethal. Now, Minister, have I your permission to isolate the airport?
In different circumstances, Dr. Quist, I would call this blackmail.
Well?
Yes? It's for you.
Oh, thank you.
I would like to explain. This is a
Yes?
private line.
Oh, Bradley. Yes? Oh, thanks. The San Pedro flight. The virus is aboard and it's got out. Now have I your permission?
Gentlemen, what do we think?
Well, do we want alumni?
We
Because
can have alumni.
there are lots of Who alumni in this one.
He's off.
go on.
Let's find out.
Well, there's Kevin Stoney, who was a triple alumnus. He was
Yes.
at Maverick Chen in Dalek Masterplan, Tobias Vaughan in The Invasion, and Tyrone in Revenge of the Cybermen.
And wearing insane spectacles in this episode.
Indeed. And appeared in everything. Tomorrow People, Blake 7, Space 1999, you name it, he turned up in it.
Backer.
You just know he's there as well, don't you? Because he's got that sort of casual smugness about him, doesn't he?
But even if it's somebody else's lines and things, he's always doing little things in the background to drag attention away from whoever's supposed to be front and centre. Michael Hawkins was General Williams in The Frontier in Space and was also the regular character of Philip Bolt in R3. Tony Sibbald was Huckle in Terror of the Zygons and also appeared in The Nightmare Man and Quatermass Conclusion. Richard Morgan was Corporal Blake in The Web of Fear and Rogan in Ark in Space. John Lee was Alidon in The Daleks. And Edward Dentilth was Major General Rutledge in The Invasion.
Can I say very quickly first, right? How much of a joy is it watching any show that went out contemporaneous with Doctor Who, where there is this pool of actors that turn up in everything? Because obviously we watched Doctor Who when we were kids, right? So we know these actors really, really well. I love watching sort of Blake Seven, Doomwatch, The Avengers, and seeing all these actors in other parts. I'm starting to wonder, if there was a pool of about 100 actors and that was it back in the 70s, because everyone seems to turn up in everything. Like when I was watching this, there was this sort of little added layer, this little sort of extra thrill that I was seeing Doctor Who actors all the time. I'm glad you mentioned who they were, though, Simon, because half the time I was going, who is that? Who is that? I was kept shouting at my other half, like, come here, who is that from Doctor Who? And he couldn't do it either. So I'm glad we've got someone with intelligence that can spot these things for us.
No, just somebody with IMDb.
We do this an awful lot though when we watch stuff. Who is that? What have we seen her in before? We do it a lot. So
It's great, though, isn't it?
It's marvellous. Spot the talent. Well, quite literally in some things, but not this,
And have you seen much Space 1999?
I've watched half the first season. A couple of them absolutely terrifying. The second episode with the fellow that was possessed running around the space station in slow motion attacking women. And Dragon's Domain. Do you remember that one?
Oh, it's a
The
fantastic
massive
one.
Octopus creature that screams, sucks people in, and spits them out as the skeletons. Absolutely terrifying.
Yeah, but what I was thinking is you see the same group of actors, but they often turn up in absolutely ridiculous wigs and makeup.
Isn't it wonderful?
I mean, did you see what they did to Peter Cushing and Christopher Lee? It was just...
Oh, no, I haven't yet. What did I do?
These men are giants of the screen and you have turned them into point and laugh figures of fun. And
Did you ever watch Blake Seven?
Oh, yeah. Blake 7 was appointment viewing in my house.
You
when I
know
was
the
growing up.
fellow who plays Lee Sen Chang? Was it Weapon? And he's in that insane June Hudson costume. Do you remember?
Oh, yeah, and he's supposed to be slumming it on a deserted planet. He's flouncing about in this great big frock.
Like an opera dress. It's amazing.
This one, as with all first episodes of Doomwatch, it got a Radio Times cover. Have you two seen it?
Yes.
No.
It's also the cover of the novel.
Oh, is it the Plastic Eater's novel? Yes.
Kind of.
But it's not really a Doomwatch novel, is it? It became Doomwatch.
I think it was published after Doomwatch, and it's basically the same plot. They did 3 novels. Plastic Eaters is the only one that's based on a Doomwatch plot, but I don't think it has the original Doomwatch characters. There was another book that came out that was, in theory, a novelisation of, I think, 3 episodes. Plastic Eaters, The Red Sky, and something else I can't remember. But it was an educational book meant for schools, so it was more a synopsis rather than a novelisation.
Well,
what was on the cover then?
It was a plane in a casket or something, but
it's in a briefcase. It's an open briefcase with a melted plane inside it.
Joe, me and you have talked about this, about ambition on screen. Now, I think that the special effects in this are actually quite well realised. The melting plastic, etc., etc. Simon, I don't think you were quite as struck.
The only thing that I would say, I think it looks great. I think it's portrayed extremely well. The slow motion to make the liquid that's dripping out look more viscous and gloopy doesn't really work. And the volumes of liquid that you're looking at are way more than you would expect from bits of wire insulation and stuff. But they're very minor niggles and
do you know what?
license.
I want to say, because obviously you are a scientist and I'm not, and you know that as a fact and I don't, but the image of all of that gunk coming out of that plane was so arresting. I'm that person who doesn't really care if it's scientifically accurate, as long as, you know, it has the effect on me that I need it. And, you know, that image, that pre-title sequence of the plane melting, that is a horror that would creep under anybody's skin watching this, right? No wonder this found an audience straight away. That's really scary.
I agree with you entirely on this. That was my take on it as well when I watched it, that it's not so much the special effects in this case, which I don't actually have a problem with. It's far worse than Doctor Who, but it's the putting yourself in that scenario and how much bowel would you shit out if that actually happened mid-flight?
Quite a lot.
Absolutely.
But I did wonder why then Toby Wren later on in the episode did in fact go up in a plane after this had happened. I thought that was a bit of a leap of logic. But I guess we needed him there for the exciting climax as to whether the plane would come down or not. Talking about the special effects, I don't think there's enough money in this show. Like, if this was made by ITV, this was the BBC, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, if this was made by ITV, this would have been shot on film. I think the set pieces would have been a lot more stylish than they are. And don't get me wrong, I think they do really good work for the resources that they have. And it doesn't hold them back because they're still ambitious. But there's like an effect sequence later on in one of the other episodes where something's sewn onto somebody's trousers. And it's like, okay, that's clearly what it is. And that's all they could do. But I think this deserved a bigger budget and more resources than what it got.
Yeah, equally, a lot of the plots that they came out with were very conceptual horror. Things like, I mean, another episode we're going to come on to is The Devil's Sweets, and it's all about, it's all very intellectual and character-driven and pretty much doesn't have special effects.
Well, it's a psychological horror, that one, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, yeah, it doesn't really have many set pieces beyond
it's brilliantly realised. And I think
yeah.
The Plastic Eaters was a genius episode to put first because it did have the imagine what could happen if this got loose, and we're going to show it happening within the first minute and a half.
Yeah, I mean, the problem that I've got, and this is not leveled at purely either this episode or Doomwatch, when you've got these global, either biochemical or biological threats that are released into the air or the wild, or plagues or something, all of a sudden it becomes too big to contain. There's never been a satisfactory plot resolution to any of these things where you think, well, they've definitely got it all. And
well, the trouble is in order to bring the drama, they're like, this thing's got out, you know, we'll never be able to contain it. They make it this sort of huge problem. And then what they do at the end of this, they spray a plane and that's it. It's all over and done with.
But with the first plane crash, it was in very isolated areas. So the bug, and it must be bacteria, not virus, because viruses don't work that way. But the only food that bug would have had would have been in that plane. And once it's worked its way through all of that, it would starve. And if it's got a really high replication rate, it would starve very quickly once it's isolated from food.
Well, if that's the case, Whitehall should have just gone, well, that's all right, there's only 30 people on that plane. If it's just going to be contained to that, or collateral damage.
But until Doomwatch came along, they didn't realise that was the problem with the plane crash, because it was John Ridge who worked out the vector that got the bug onto the plane was the minister to his secretary to her cousin
I loved all of that. I loved how easily it happened, how simply the transmission happened, and how it was the fella in Whitehall. Although you said about the first crash there again, like when they're realizing that plane crash, it's a ton of stock footage and weirdly some houses collapsing. Did you notice that it sort of cuts to some houses collapse? I'm like, what's going on here? Because the plane's crashing in the middle of nowhere. It's just obviously just a load of stock footage they've got of destructive things happening. But, you wouldn't be able to even do that as model work, I don't think. But that's an example of what I'm talking about, of if they had more money, then they wouldn't be leaning on things like that. But you know what? We're Doctor Who fans. Like, when has how things are realised ever stopped us from enjoying something?
Absolutely. Ignore the rat.
Let's get on to the rats later. They're great.
What do we think of John Quist, Spencer Quist?
He would be a monumental pain in the arse to work for.
Oh, absolutely. See, he's got a speech for every occasion, hasn't he?
Yeah.
You think physically, to me, he's halfway between John Steed and John Pertwee. I think he's got that look about him and those marvellous facial expressions. And Joe, you're right, the monologues that he has prepared for every
I could
eventuality.
just see him in his dressing room sort of staring into the mirror, just exactly the same way he's got to stare into the camera and deliver these monologues. But he's got presence, though, I think. And as I went through the 4 episodes, obviously the last one we're going to talk about, he barely features in at all. And whilst I do think that's a great episode, I did feel the lack of his presence and the rest of the Doomwatch cast.
The 3rd season was very much out on its own because the production team had changed completely. A lot of the regular actors had gone. You still had Quist, you still had Bradley, and you still had Barbara. And I think they were the only ones that were left. And Anne had come in, Anne Tarrant, who'd been in the first episode of the 2nd season, and she brought a more psychological aspect to their research and also a love interest for Quist.
You say about production team coming and going. Just how many people did Terence Dudley piss off at the BBC?
All of them.
I mean, I've never heard a good word said about him from anybody. Like, clearly he can put good stuff on the screen. I think he's written a good script of one of the 4 we're doing here today. But man, he had a talent for pissing people off.
This, I must admit, I'm largely ignorant of.
So while I was watching, this is the length I go to for you guys, I found a documentary online which sort of detailed Doomwatch and had interviews with all the cast. And one of the cast members goes, I'd be dragged into Terence Dudley's office and for 45 minutes he'd be ranting about Kit Pedler and Jerry Davis. And then I'd barely escape with my life. And then I'd be dragged into Jerry Davis and he'd be going, what's that prick Terence Dudley been saying about us? And this is the environment this was being made in, this really hostile environment. So all 4 of what we're talking about today are the great bits of telly. The fact that that was being made out of this, it's the JNT Eric Sayward sort of thing again.
Without one of them buggering off to America for conventions every 3 seconds.
Indeed. You know what I thought was great about this first episode? I feel like Rusty Davies was paying attention when he wrote Torchwood. Remember in Torchwood, you had Gwen having her first day on the job with Torchwood? It's such a great way of introducing you to the team. So having Toby Wren have his first day in the office, he's there and everyone's ignoring him. No one's there, the secretary, and more on her later. Nobody's really talking to him. And then one by one, he sort of finds his way in the office and Quist just goes to him, oh, well, this is your stats and this is your first day. Off you go, and he's in that plane before you know it. But it's a really great way for the audience to meet those characters as well through that avatar. I think it's a really savvy move.
Yeah, and worked extremely well. And the whole bit where he stands around and stands around and stands around and then just gets pissed off and is about to storm out the door. And Quist comes in and says, where are you going? You're going out, but actually you're going to South America. Here's your plane tickets. And it's kind of a sciencey thing, but it's a very, very NHS thing in that first day on the job, right, okay, you are here to hit the ground running. Welcome to the ward. There's a dying patient. Go and deal with it.
Really?
Oh, God, yeah. Yeah.
Well, if it was you, I'd happily be that patient.
Sometimes before you even have a chance to take your coat off or anything.
That's madness. But I will say, as a whole, I think this first season cast, they got it just about right, didn't they? You've got Toby Wren, who, may I say, is hot as hell, isn't he? He is your poster boy for Doomwatch, unless you guys are going to tell me otherwise.
I'd say Ridge, to be honest.
Who is it I was talking to? I was talking to one of you, and I was going, Toby Wren's my favourite character. And then one of you said to me, yeah, he dies by the end of the first season. I was like, what? I don't want to watch it anymore then.
That would have been Dr. X.
I didn't. I may have pointed out
What did you say exactly?
I may have pointed out what the title of the first episode of the second season was.
Right. It's as good as a spoiler, you know.
Well, it was quite a spoiler because the first episode of the second season is Who Killed Toby Wren. So
I'd say the only problematic character in that early cast is his name John, you know, the porn star.
Well, there's an interview.
Have you watched a version we haven't?
I mean, have you seen what he's wearing? Those crazy cravats and mad shirts and medallions.
Yeah,
and
that's
dog
John
collars
Rich.
and things.
Simon Oakes, he played John Steed on stage.
Really?
Yep.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yep, opposite Kate O'Mara as the villain.
Hello.
Gold.
Oh, honestly, Google Kate O'Mara in the Avengers stage play and get an eyeful of her costume because it's...
Eye-watering. I don't have any issues with the actor. I think he's really great. And when he's called to do dramatic stuff, he's brilliant. We'll talk about some of the stuff in this episode. But the blatant sexism that he exhibits...
Oh, God, he's an HR nightmare.
And his sort of florid style. I mean, he's sort of the comic relief as well as the dramatic character, isn't he?
She would have introduced us, but I pinched her bum earlier, so she's not talking
Oh,
to me.
Christ, that line.
Oh, God.
No, Jesus Christ. We're not in the 70s anymore.
Oh, Kate O'Mara. I'm just sorry, boys. I'll let you talk amongst yourself.
Are you kidding me? We've been talking for 2 minutes since then.
He's needed a moment.
I need a moment alone.
Have you got to the thigh-high PVC boots yet?
Oh, yes.
No.
Who plays Toby Wren? What's the fella's name?
Robert Powell.
Is it true this launched his career?
Yes. Yeah, he had a massive career after this. He went on to play Jesus in whatever that big production was.
Franco Zeffirelli's...
Jesus of Nazareth.
Yeah.
And had a pretty good Hollywood career after that, but Doomwatch is the thing that launched him.
I can see why. Because you know what? When they're all in the room together, my eye's drawn to him. And it isn't just because he's the prettiest guy in the room. It's because he's always doing something.
Yes. It's a good cast. It is.
There isn't a weak link.
No.
There was a lot of criticism at the time that there wasn't a female scientist.
I think that is a problem.
And was addressed in the second season.
What instead you've got is the secretary who, in the Devil's Suites, has the line, we're looking for brain cells if we find any there. And lines like that thrown at her. And I'm like, okay, this isn't doing the sexist cause any good at all.
I mean, they did have female scientists. So Tomorrow the Rat, Project Sahara, there were very capable and competent female scientists. They just weren't part of the regular Doomwatch crew.
And it is worth remembering as well, that sort of secretary character is very much of the day. You know, it's not any different from any other show on at the time.
Oh, no, we've just been watching stuff. We're watching episodes of Armchair Theatre where Carol, the receptionist, or whatever her name was, it's not important, she's just a girl, but go off and make the coffee, there's a good girl.
That was an episode from 1957.
I know, but this is only 15 years later.
Oh, God, yes, so it is.
So things are of their time. Just to wrap up on the plastic eaters, which we've spent remarkably little time discussing in any depth. We do this a lot. It wasn't the strongest start to the series.
You're joking.
No, I think the actual characters are brilliant. I think the way they're introduced is very good.
The plot is fantastic.
It is.
So what's not strong about it?
Just the way it's realised. That's my beef with stuff like this. And it is something that...
You mean like the special effects?
Yes.
From 50 years ago that still look pretty good?
Right, I'm going to stop talking now because whenever I open my mouth, he's going to disagree with me. So
well,
yes.
You know what's great here is
no,
usually
no.
we have the two of you on this and one's on one side and one's on the other. I'm the third wheel here now. So I'll be the deciding factor, shall I?
Right, you've got the casting vote here. What do you think?
I thought it was great. I thought it was a really smart script. I thought it was really well structured. I thought the threat was very well presented. The cast of characters were immediately enjoyable to be around. And I think you need to win that battle in a pilot is, do you want to spend more time with these people? And I did. It had good dialogue to it, very good acting. Yeah, I thought this was a really strong start. Yeah, there are production issues, But I think if I watch anything from whenever this came out, there would be production issues. So I'm forgiving. I just think, do I want to watch more after this episode? Yes, I do. When was that decision made? In the pre-title sequence when that plane started melting. I was like, this show is taking risks because that's really scary.
Oh, absolutely, yes. I do agree with that, yes.
And special effects-wise, you'd be comparing it to what? Spearhead from Space?
That was flawless. There's obviously not a single thing wrong with it.
But I also know on film Spirit from Space.
I was just about to say, you've got away with it, Joe, because you're a guest. But the repeat klaxon would be sounding at this point because I've got a real beef about the lack of things being done on. If they were deemed in any way not a prestigious drama, they would chuck them out on video. And it's such a shame because it does let down what, on the whole, is probably very good telly that just across the board, it was let down by video.
And I'm assuming, Simon, you don't care about that.
I do, and I agree with it. I just don't think it needs saying every episode.
Can you imagine somebody saying something every episode? Just imagine.
What you mean, like the title sequence?
Or like dick jokes on mine, like, Jesus. Every single episode. That's what people come for, though. Well, can I jump in on that then, the film and video then? Because, this is a fresh opinion now.
Oh, yes, completely.
I think it is a problem. You and I can watch Robot, and that was all done on video. And it does feel like a more smooth production if you're not chopping back and forth between the two. But we were all brought up on Doctor Who where this was absolutely the norm. I remember talking to my mum about it, going, that's film, that's video, that's film. And she just sort of went, oh, I'm going to go make your tea. What are you talking about? Like, the layperson just didn't care, It's only the people like us who examine this stuff really care about it.
And examining it 50 years afterwards.
When you jump onto film, suddenly everything looks really tasty. Those sequences in Tomorrow the Rat, when suddenly this genetically engineered rat army are on the loose in people's houses and you're on film and it all looks amazing and suddenly you're in a movie, My heart starts racing when you go into film on Doomwatch.
Well, let's move on then, because the next episode along is Tomorrow the Rat. Doomwatch are alerted to reports of a number of attacks on humans by rats. Toby and Bradley investigate the house of Mr. and Mrs. Chambers, victims of a recent attack. The two scientists lay traps in the kitchen, where the rodents display unusual intelligence by jamming the traps open using cutlery. This was the fourth episode of Series 1, broadcast on BBC One on the 2nd of March 1970.
They've propped open the gates with spoons and forks.
And taken the bait. Good Lord.
The density of the branches of the brain cells.
What?
The report on that dead rat. This isn't Rattus novegicus.
Well, that's not possible. Well, we didn't do that. And we know what did. Then they opened a drawer and...
No. Spoons and forks are on here. Which means they've found them without being able to see them, at least at first. Which means that they were looking for them. Which means that we have got a reasoning carnivorous animal. Rattus sapiens.
Dr. Exton, have you got alumni for us?
We do. We have some Doctor Who alumni. Hamilton Dice was Major General Scobie in Spearhead from Space. Eileen Helsby was Venusa in The Ark, would turn up later in Survivors as the regular character Charmaine. Penelope Lee was the computer voice from Revelation of the Daleks. Ian Elliott was a Doctor Who extra, first appearing in first episode of Inferno and going right the way through to Curse of Fenric. Ray Roberts was Dr. Tullis in The Big Pull, and Stephen Dudley was the son of Terence Dudley and appeared in 2 Doomwatch episodes and then became a regular character on Survivors.
Honestly, the computer voice from Revelation of the Daleks.
Thank you.
You don't just dive deep. You dive straight into the core of the earth, don't you, when you do your research.
I'd forgotten that voice, and it's just leapt back into my head, that liquid
How
porn
do you do,
voice.
Mr. Tarkis? And what is your pleasure? Very
The
sexy.
computer dripping for you. God almighty.
What, you're dripping right now? What is wrong with you?
I'm looking at pictures of Kate O'Mara.
Fair enough.
I know it's not to your...
I can appreciate the theory.
You can appreciate the theory, yes.
Yeah.
So, now we're really into good territory. Plastic rats do let the production down in one particular scene, but it's easily forgiven for the rest of it. I really loved this one.
Oh no, I thought this was the weakest of the four. Sorry. Although while thinking it's good, I just thought that the other three were great. I did think this was the one where it's like, oh, come on, killer rats jumping out of toilets. This is one you could very easily sort of lampoon, put a bit of comedy music over those scenes, Benny Hill or something like that, and you could play the same scenes but with a very different emphasis.
Until you get to the very end.
Yeah, the ending was brilliant. And actually, what got me more than finding the gnawed corpse of this brilliant character, let's talk about her, was the woman coming in with a knife, attacking her
and spitting on her.
How crazy was that? Like, that's kind of dark, isn't it? Like, when did this go out? What time did this go out?
About 8 o'clock.
So pre-Watershed.
The bit that got me, and again, they'd never get away with this now, is the bones sticking through the gnawed bodies.
Oh,
I mean,
grotesque, wasn't it?
Oh, that very final sequence where he finds her body.
The fella that plays John said in the documentary that he saw that on the set for the first time when he was acting, and he was so repulsed by it, he genuinely fell to the floor. So he said that wasn't acting, and they had to take him away to his dressing room because he was so horrified by the makeup job that they'd done.
There's just stuff that we've been watching recently, and this is old stuff. This is sort of 40, 50, 60 years old. They'd never dream of putting that on screen now. I personally think TV's become very sanitised. It's all this homogenous blob now. Whereas in years gone by, they were prepared to take much bigger risks and show far more harrowing things on TV than they do now. I mean, the most recent example of something that I actually haven't watched yet, and Simon says it's a sort of collective memory, is the Spooks episode with the Fat Friar.
Yeah.
Oh, it is horrible.
Well, I've never seen it. It's just the
Unforgettable.
thought of it. I don't want to be that traumatized because that was still towards the tail end of days where they were willing to take those sort of terrible risks on screen.
But you don't see the thing that you think you see. Everybody remembers the burnt face and you never see it. It is brilliant.
It's like the Psycho thing, isn't it? You never see the knife going into Janet Leigh,
Yeah.
but because of the editing and the cuts and the music, you fill in the blanks.
And that scene in Spooks, it's brilliantly written, it's brilliantly directed, and Lisa Faulkner absolutely sells it. Her performance is phenomenal. It's an incredibly good scene.
But I would point that at the end of this episode as well. Very powerful and just brilliantly acted.
And a very clever plot. I mean, all the Doomwatch plots for the first couple of years are very clever. There's one or two where they missed the mark a little bit, but only one or two.
Did she not have to die in this, though, right? Because I figured this relationship wasn't going to continue. And because she was responsible for this plague of psychotic rats going about the place. Sorry, it's so funny. So, like, didn't she have to be punished by the end of the episode? I kind of figured that's where we were going. I didn't think it would be as horrific as it was, but I figured that she was going to die at the end.
Yeah, from a dramatic perspective, that kind of had to happen, but you didn't know that it was going to be that gruesome.
Well, by that point, the props department had run out of pegs to keep the rats on her dress and trousers and things. That was particularly bad. That one scene in the whole thing.
Which is the only thing anybody knows it for, but
Yeah.
it's superb performances, an
Yeah.
incredibly clever idea. Watching it on a little telly, for most people, probably in black and white.
In black and white, yes.
You wouldn't have seen the
Yeah.
wires. It wouldn't have looked as crap as it does.
It's only now when we're watching on 52-inch screens, in high definition, that we're in a bit of trouble.
And you can pause in on things and say, oh, yeah, look, you can see the wire there.
But it was doing the Doctor Who thing as well. It was using the sound effects of the screeching rats.
Oh,
the
yeah.
so you'd hear that, and then you knew they were there, and suddenly everyone's looking. It's great.
Well, I've said this before, that in the 50s, 60s and 70s to an extent, they didn't have the effects and they didn't have the budget. So the dialogue had to do all the heavy lifting. But in a lot of things, and we were watching something yesterday, and I can't remember what it was. I think it might actually have been one of the armchair theatres. But the Foley work was doing all the heavy lifting. It was filling in the gaps that the visuals just couldn't give you.
It was the man out there, wasn't it?
Could have been, actually, yes. But the sound effects and music, if they're done right, I mean, case in point is audio dramas. The sound does all the lifting on that. Obviously, you've got your imagination there as well, but the sound is what conjures things up. I still have trouble with the conversion sequence in real time which I find a very uncomfortable listen. When I first heard that, that was not pleasant. Now, whether that's just my imagination, really...
This time, I didn't listen in my ears this time. We had it on the TV. We were listening to it. So it was sort of in the room rather than in my head, if you know what I mean. But it's still very discomforting. That's something that Doctor Who remembered time and again, though, isn't it? Like, think about something like the Mind Robber and the Clockwork Soldiers or the robots in the White Void and those very creepy, weird sound effects, which are doing a lot of the work.
Yes, and then you've got something like Vortis, where there's no sound effects at all, and it sounds terribly empty, doesn't it?
Are you mad? There's a huge soundscape in the Web Planet, isn't there, Simon?
Absolutely, but he's saying this to wind me up and I'm not going to respond to it.
Oh, okay. Can we please talk about the female scientist in this, though, who was so well written, smart and witty and totally in control of herself? I love the fact she's sitting in the bar. The first thing she says to any man who tries to buy her a drink is, "I'm not a whore, all right?" I was like, I like you already. But also, you know, she's got a hell of a sex drive, and the second him with the cravat comes onto her, they're in bed before you can say Rassilon's rod. I mean, there's a lot going on in this episode.
And thinking about that, have you seen Who Killed Toby Wren?
I haven't. No, I haven't.
Oh, right, because there's a female scientist in there who sexually absolutely turns the tables on John Ridge and is the one that chases after him.
Oh, wow. Does she get him?
Oh, yes, and there's ulterior motives behind it. It's really well worth watching.
One thing I will say about watching these four is I want to watch the whole lot. I'm invested now, so thank you.
The only thing about Who Killed Toby Wren is it's about the worst special effects in the entire series. They really are quite dreadful. It's Tomorrow People level special effects.
Did you fellas know that, you know, everybody that's attacked by the rats at the end of the episode was Terence Dudley's family?
No.
The woman whose toilet the rat jumps out, that's his wife. The kid that's in the pushchair, that's his kid.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, it's pulled in his whole family. Nepotism or what?
So from what you two have said, they're like, thank God he's out at work today, and then he drags them into work and terrorises his family at work as well.
Yeah, that kid turns up again in Doomwatch and becomes a series regular in Survivors.
There was a thing about rats, wasn't there, in the 70s? There was a new Avengers episode as well called Norse, about an enormous rat. And obviously you had the giant rat in Doctor Who. And then James Herbert wrote that terrible old dusty paperback, didn't he, The Rats, a little bit later.
Sequels, because there was The Rats and...
It was The Lair as well, is that
and
one?
it was The Swarm or something like that. There were about 4 or 5 sequels to it.
I think I completely missed the reason why she was, you know, making them hyper intelligent. What was the reason?
Because she could.
Oh, the scientist's dream.
Because it's there.
I came down a bit hard on this at the beginning. I did think this was very good, and the best of this is probably the best of the 4, which is that ending. Like, I recoiled from the screen at that bit, but I do think this is the one you could probably take the piss out of the most out of the 4 of them.
Can you imagine podcasters doing such a thing?
Never.
Well, the next one along is The Devil's Sweets. While on the way to work, Secretary Pat Honeysett takes a free promotional chocolate from a group of girls on the street. Meanwhile, at the Doomwatch office, Quist and his team are investigating the sudden increase in the country's smokers, and are surprised when Pat arrives and lights up a cigarette for the first time in 5 years. Quist suspects that there could be a link between the promotional chocolates and the checkerboard cigarettes, whose recent sales are doing unexpectedly well. Should subliminal advertising be allowed? This was broadcast on BBC One on March the 23rd, 1970.
Now, Pat, you may have taken a drug. No, without knowing it. Possibly a phototropine drug. Now, this works on the eye-to-brain mechanism.
You mean the chocolates?
Yes, we're having it analysed now. Now, phototropine drugs have the effect of altering the behaviour of the brain. It is now possible to give an experimental animal a drug which will cause the animal to do a specific task.
Yes, the pigeons, Bradley told me.
Yes, now they're being trained by the drug to react to a particular checkerboard pattern.
Look, it could take days to get that chocolate analysed. What we ought to get hold of is a sample of the pure drug that they are putting into the chocolate.
Now, what are you waiting for?
First things first, Dr. Exton, have you got any alumni for us?
Yes, there's just a couple of Doctor Who alumni. Maurice Reeves was Stott in Caves of Androzani and was also the regular character of Inskip in The Nightmare Man, and John Law was Paul Barras in The Reign of Terror.
Maurice Reeves.
Oh,
it
Maurice
took me about
Reeves.
4 scenes to realise it was him because they'd slapped on so much of that tan and given him that enormous porn star moustache.
Oh, yeah, but the shirts.
And those shirts.
The shirts.
Oh, my God. The paisley shirts with matching ties.
The fact that he managed to act through all of that and so well. Bravo, sir.
I mean, that's screaming for some porn star music over that when he's on the phone in the office.
Oh, I'd have him, wouldn't you? Oh, look at him. He's gorgeous.
Have you ever seen Ace of Wands?
No.
No. Roy Holder's in that. Both this and Ace of Wands are roughly sort of 11, 12 years prior to Caves of Androzani, which they were both in. At this stage, they're both quite handsome young men. What happened in the intervening decade that by the time they turned up in Caves of Androzani with very little makeup or anything done to them, they were haggard middle-aged men?
Capstan full strength. That's probably what happened.
I look at pictures on Facebook from 15 years ago and I say exactly the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah, but you've gone the other way, haven't you? Because you posted...
bless you, sir.
Oh, you did? You posted pictures of you in your 20s the other day, and I couldn't believe it was the same man.
I know. I was 22 stone. Jesus.
Yes, congratulations on that score, because I could do to shift a few pounds myself. You just sort of sparked my drive to do it now, because if I don't do something soon, I am going to be just another stuffed shirt, and I really don't want to be.
Then may I suggest you do not eat any more of the devil's sweets then? These chocolates that encourage you to smoke.
In fairness, this one, I mean, they got very, very invested in the fact that cigarette sales had suddenly gone up. I don't know why a government scientific research department was that bothered about it. But
they do start off the episode saying, I know we're just doing make work statistic stuff, but we should still take it seriously. So they don't see why they should be doing it either. It's just... it happens to tie in with the things they find out later on.
Oh, yes, that's not where I was going with that. It was later on in the episode when they start, purely by chance, the correlation between the cigarettes and the chocolate and the way that they go about working out in very sort of forensic depth how the two are connected. I mean, it looks very primitive now to genuine scientists, but from a layperson's perspective watching this, I thought that the logical progression to it was very well done for the time.
Yeah, me too. I thought this was a really intelligent script with a great premise as well. Like, all of these have got great premises, but this one, I thought, is this one of the episodes that got the government having itchy feet? I know there was one about petrol, wasn't there? Where they didn't want them to put it out because it was saying that unleaded petrol was a possibility. Was this the same? Because obviously the things they're talking about here, you know, encouraging people to smoke and marketing that in a very insidious way, I do believe that some of this might actually be going on in real life. So did this get any alarm bells ringing?
There were 2 things that really got them in trouble in terms of, 3. First was the second season advertising packs, and each episode was promoted with a faked up newspaper column about the thing that they were addressing in that episode. But there was one of them that used a real newspaper
column.
Real
paper?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
A real story, because there was one of the second season episodes that was based on a genuine event. And that
know that photograph of Kit Pedler and Jerry Davis with all those newspaper cuttings behind them?
Yeah.
That's the picture that they always use. Is that those? Is that those from Doomwatch?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, because
I'll pause it next time and have a good read.
In the background of that picture, there's the handwritten sign saying Doomwatch above the corkboard.
Yeah, there is, yeah.
So that was one thing that they got into trouble for. There was the lead in petrol thing, but that came in the 3rd season. And in the 3rd season, John Ridge leaves Doomwatch because he goes psychotic, and the explanation for his going psychotic.
Oh, hang on. Stop. I've not reached there yet.
Well, those episodes don't exist anyway, so.
Oh, okay. Fair enough.
He threatens to release anthrax, and it turns out...
No, does he?
Yeah. That episode doesn't exist. Unfortunately, the episode that has Liz Sladen in doesn't exist. The entirety of the second season exists. I think about just over half of the first season exists, and 3 episodes from the second season exist. One of which is the not Killer Dolphins. That was the final one that was when the plug was pulled on Doomwatch. That episode had been rehearsed but hadn't been recorded, and Sex and Violence was never transmitted because there is footage of a genuine military execution in the middle of it.
Yeah, more on that later.
Yeah, and that was the apparent reason that it wasn't transmitted, although there are other possible reasons why.
Okay, so I'm surprised though, because this is sort of a cutting edge idea, this episode. And do you know what I love is how it starts off in such a weird hallucinogenic way with those dolly birds on the street handing out the chocolates with that crazy sort of Benny Hill music playing over it. When I first started, I was like, is this Doomwatch? What the hell am I watching? We were very quickly in rooms with a lot of serious men talking about serious things, so I knew I was. But I thought this was fantastic, especially, again, the ending.
Oh, yeah. The way Quist manipulates Ridge into threatening to beat the crap out of the scientist to get the answer that will save Pat's life.
To the point where he goes in that room and he punches the other guy out.
Yeah.
Everybody knows he's really serious and the whole thing's exposed.
That's because he thinks Pat is dying, because that's what Quist has told him.
But I'm not sure I would go back to work the next day after that, if my boss had told me. Is the inference then that he has feelings for the secretary?
I'd not read it that way. It was just, I read it more as a protective thing than a romantic thing. But yeah, I mean, you could read it that way.
I mean, she only had one chocolate, didn't she? I mean, I think she had half of a chocolate.
Yeah, because she takes half of it to work and the wrapper ends up in the bin. So the cleaning staff clearly aren't doing their job very well if it's still there the day after.
Another thing I really loved about this one was how, that sort of cabal of people working on this thing, sort of risking murder to make money. It was scientists and politicians and businessmen sort of all coming together. I love the scientist character. I can't remember what his name is. And he's trying to absolve himself of blame, isn't he, throughout the whole second half of the episode, even though, he's entirely responsible for this.
Well, he goes on Lesterson,
It's a really smart show, this, I think. It's a very smart show.
And as well as being predictive, there were certain episodes that were based on things that had happened. So there's unfortunately a missing episode in the first series about a yacht that gets caught up in a release of toxic gas from military waste that's been dumped in the English Channel, I think. And a couple of years before, there had been a canister of nerve gas that had washed up in a beach in Belgium, I think. And that episode was based on that event.
Taking sort of controversial subject matters and dramatising them. There's an interview with Kit Pedler in that documentary. It's a black and white documentary as this was being made. And he just basically says, if you take these things that people are frightened of and you put it in front of them in an entertaining way, I genuinely think we can sort of make a change to society. Unfortunately, like Barry Letts, I don't think anybody was paying attention because we didn't really get anywhere, did we, with any of this?
I mean, those two, they were brought in as the science, weren't they, towards the end of the Hartnell run. And I still remember me and you having a discussion about this, Simon, that actually
Kit Pedler was, and yeah.
Some of the science, though, was a little off. I mean, if you examine 10th Planet, none of it scientifically makes any sense whatsoever.
No, but the thing that Kit Pedler brought into it was the whole cyberization thing as a way of surviving the cold and depths of space. And that's a very clever idea. The whole twin planet coming back and draining energy and then taking too much and melting is bollocks. Doesn't make any sense at all.
But they know how to put something on the screen that's going to get people talking and watching. Because I was looking at the viewing figures and the highest rated Doomwatch was like 13 million. I don't think it often skipped below 10 million. So, people were really invested in this. It's like with the Cybermen. You say the Cybermen came in at the end there. The ratings have been lingering in the sort of 4 and 5 million. Suddenly the Cybermen are on the screen and we're back up to 7 and 8 million. So they knew how to put stuff on the screen that got people talking.
Oh, yes. I mean, I would never try and take away from what they did, but which is the balding one and which was the one that looked a bit like Rupert Vansittart?
The balding one was Kit Pedler.
Right.
One looks like sort of a grumpy uncle, doesn't it? And the other one looks like your cuddly uncle. Well, what did you guys think about Quist at the end of this then?
Oh, he was a manipulative shit, but he got the job done.
There was one in particular where him and Rudge had a big argument. It's not one of the ones that we've watched for this, was it? Am I making this up?
No, he had a big argument at the end of this. Because,
this is the one, yeah.
Yeah, because he basically tells Ridge that Pat is dying and will die if they don't find the cure, and then gets the hospital to phone back and say that she's died. And that tips him over the edge and gets him threatening Shipton enough to give over the formula. But the way that Quist gets him to do that is to get him to believe that Pat has died.
I mean, slightly unethical. There might be
bloody awful thing
HR issues if that was tried nowadays.
I don't think that's the only thing that HR would be concerned about in the Doomwatch office.
No, not in that office, no. But the thing about the Devil's Suite and Sex and Violence, actually, which we'll come on to, was that these two episodes, which kind of push away from the fantastical, because the first one, the plastic-eating virus, it is sort of fantasy in a way. Tomorrow the Rat, genetically engineered rats going on a killing spree. That's a bit crazy. But this, chocolate that encourages you to smoke cigarettes driving up sales, that's plausible. And the Sex and Violence episode as well. Those were my two favourites. So I'm wondering if with this show, when it's sort of pushing away from the fantasy and into reality, that's when it's hitting hardest.
You might have a point there, but with that, you've neatly segued us into the fourth and final episode that we're watching tonight.
Dab hand at this now,
What a pro. Doomwatch's Anne Tarrant and Spencer Quist are placed on a government committee investigating whether the UK censorship laws should be revised. The committee's work brings them into contact with both anti-pornography pressure groups and a man who hopes one day to be a dictator. This was the untransmitted 12th episode of Series 3 and eventually was transmitted on the 4th of April 2016.
Wayward girls, orgies, wife-swapping orgies, vice dens, prostitution, homosexuality, transvestism, frigidity, nymphomania, and lesbianism. These are the themes dealt with in the American cinema. It's all here in this report. Do we want that here?
It's out of context, I'm afraid, madam. These are exploitation films. They're known in the trade as skin flicks. And they show in club cinemas in this country, as we've seen in our study of the literature handed out by these cinemas.
But do we want them here?
Well, we may not want them, but they're obviously in demand.
Yes, but do we all agree that they should exist?
You mean, are they corrupting the people who see them?
I do.
Rubbish. Of course they aren't. Pornography is the manifestation of the fantasies of the sexual infant. Every man passes through the fantasy stage. Infant sexuality, let me remind you, the baby is a sexual being. But at what age do we recognize sexuality? It rears its hideous head at something like the age of 10 or 11, and we stumble and mumble and object to sex education in the schools. No, the people who go to see these films are the sexually ignorant, the sexually deprived. The ones whose knowledge of sex behavior was truncated as soon as they placed an innocent hand on their genitals.
Please, don't try to shock me. I trust I'm not easily shockable.
I'm sorry, Mrs. Cressy, but we must conduct our research by calling things by their proper names.
No, they go to find out. Now, isn't that sad? At the age of 60 or 70, sometimes they go to a cinema to find out.
You'd have these films shown to a mass public?
No, I'd leave it the way it is.
There are some people who make a lot of money out of ignorant people.
Yes, you've hit it, Mr. Burns.
What do you think, Mr. Burns? Do you think these films should be shown at all?
Well, I don't know, do I? I haven't seen any of them.
Then we must arrange a showing of one of these films. We'll also take in some legitimate cinema going. And we'll take a trip to the Blue Film Library at Scotland Yard.
Great!
Before we crack on, Dr. Exton, who are the alumni for this?
There are loads of alumni in this. So June Brown, Dot Cotton herself, would be Eleanor in Time Warrior and was also one of the regulars in the amazingly good adaptation of Gormenghast.
You thought that was good?
Oh, it's amazing.
Oh.
Have you read the book?
I've tried to read the book. It's one of the very few that I've put down.
Really? Because the first couple of books in the series are brilliant. The third book is unreadable because that's when he was dying of a brain tumour. But no, Gormenghast is amazing. But
That's why I love you two podcasting together. You adore each other, but you don't agree on anything.
But it's like The City in the City. You probably have to read the book to be able to really get the most out of the TV series. But yeah, I thought Gormenghast was brilliant. So moving on. Donald Eccles was Crassus in Time Monster.
Crassus. A constitutional Crassus.
Oh, he was terrible in the Time Monster, wasn't he? Was he that kid? Oh, no, he's the older chap, isn't he? He's the older chap who, come, Kronos, come.
Yes.
He's that man, isn't he? Yeah.
Come all over my Tom tits.
Bernard Horsfall was Gulliver in The Mind Robber. He was Taran in The Plan to the Daleks and Goth in The Deadly Assassins, and turned up in fuck tons of other stuff, dating all the way back to Pathfinders to Mars and Out of This World. Noel Dyson wasn't in Doctor Who, but she was Ida Barlow in Coronation Street.
She died.
She died. Was one of the very first characters in Coronation Street from episode 1.
She was.
Yes. And was the first death in Coronation Street. No, she was the first person to be killed in Coronation Street.
Yes, that's right, yeah.
Brian Wilde was Last of the Summer Wine and Porridge, and a marvellously entertaining episode of Ace of Wands. Lots of other things as well. Llewellyn Rhys was the president in The Deadly Assassin, and also turned up in Ace of Wands, Strange Report, and Withnail and I. Chris Chittle was a regular in The Freewheelers, playing Nick, and a regular in The Tomorrow People, playing Chris, and then spent about a million years on Emmerdale Farm. And Sebastian Graham Jones was the wildly entertainingly named John Pentacle in Ace of Wands.
Lovely. This is going to be the one that has probably the most polarising views out of all of us because, Joe, I know you loved this one. It bored me, I'm afraid, this one.
Why?
Because it played like... I mean, Simon's touched on it earlier. The regulars aren't front and centre in this. It hardly feels like it's part of the same series at all. But large chunks of it are basically people sitting around a table like some late night of the time BBC One debate show. So I thought it was quite staid. I can see, the actual worth of it and the underlying debate, which in fairness, were very evenly handedly done. It certainly didn't come down one side or the other. But beyond the execution scene, which I've got to say did take me aback. I wasn't expecting that at all. But the pace of it actually was quite staid for me. And not a lot goes on beyond people just sat around a table having a debate. So maybe that's where it let it down for me, but I know that you are completely on the opposite.
That's every episode of Doomwatch, people standing around a table just having long 10-minute conversations.
I know, but not literally one.
This is no different to the others here.
Dot Cotton's in it, I suppose, yeah.
And third season Doomwatch is quite different to the preceding 2 seasons. I don't think it's fair to say that the regulars weren't involved because by that point, Anne Tarrant was one of the Doomwatch regulars and she's absolutely front and centre in this.
That's my misreading of it then. Right,
okay.
Fair enough.
So she's not random psychiatrist who's come in and it's all based around her. She is a member of Doomwatch. She is one of the series leads. So the Doomwatch...
But what a great way to tell another type of story as well, to have one of the regulars' wife sort of driving the story for once and just doing something completely different. And he sort of turned up enough. I mean, I did like the fact that he was sort of Ken in this episode going, well, what the hell has this got to do with Doomwatch? You know, he kept saying throughout the entire episode.
She was kind of saying, well, I'm busy at work, you go home and put the tea on, which was quite nice. There was a much more of a focus on psychological stories in the third season after.
What a shame then that none of it exists, because if they're like this, I think I would have liked them a lot.
Well, a quarter exists. There are 3 episodes out of 12 that exist. And that's not a terrible survivability for early 70s telly. And there are some psychological elements in some of the earlier shows. It's just not as front and centre as this.
This was the most controversial of the 4. To have an episode which is intelligently discussing whether you can equate sex to violence. I can't believe this. I mean, it didn't go out at the time, but that's not the reason why this wasn't going to go out at the time. Well, that's pretty hard stuff for, when was this, 73, 74?
72.
72, yeah.
Yeah, and it wouldn't have been very long after Tynan took over the censor's office. So there were a lot of debates about violence and nudity in public performance, in television, because they hadn't really been allowed before. And with Tynan coming along and becoming the head censor, then things became a lot more permissive. There was a lot of debate about it. I mean, that's where Mary Whitehouse comes in.
You had a character in this, didn't you?
Who's based on Mary Whitehouse, yes.
Proto Mary Whitehouse, yeah. And I love the fact that you had the June Brown character, who I really thought was terrifying, this sort of mad, and I'm not casting aspersion on anyone political leader, but a mad conservative nutcase who literally, she has a moment in the middle of the episode where she just starts ranting about everything, about racism and sexism and gays and everything. And she doesn't even have an argument. She's just spreading hate about everybody. And then she suddenly goes, oh, sorry, what were we talking about? She's not in it a lot. She's only in it at the beginning and sort of the middle. But a really terrifying example of somebody that's reactionary in all the wrong ways.
Yeah.
And then on the board, you had another female character who, again, is in sort of the Mrs. Whitehouse mold, but is so much more eloquent. And so that's what I loved about those scenes in the board, was that they cherry picked these really diverse sort of representatives to talk about this subject. A priest, somebody from the media, this Mary Whitehouse woman. And like you said, Ken, it didn't come out on anybody's side. It was just everybody was allowed to throw in their opinion and they sort of forced it out. I don't even think it came to any sort of great conclusion. But I think that's good drama, where you have all very diverse opinions sort of coming together like that in a really smart way.
And expecting your audience to think.
Exactly, yeah, exactly.
And my reading of it was that there was an awful lot of modern resonance as well. So there was the Mary Whitehouse character scapegoating nudity and promiscuity and coming out with exactly the same arguments that 20 years later were being used to describe gay people, and then 20 years after that were being used to describe trans people and are still being used to describe trans people. So there was a lot of modern resonance between a more progressive attitude and a very staid conservative attitude.
The thing that felt most progressive for me was the conversation that they had, where they were coming to the conclusion that repressing sexuality and identity, that's the thing that might lead to violence. And I thought, yes, you've got it. Like, people should be themselves. Yes. And I thought, to do that in 1972, to make that statement, I mean, I wondered if that was why this hadn't come out, because they were going, oh, no, Jesus, all the liberals are going to take over and start doing whatever they want. But
well, the 1970s was sort of the tipping point for interviews like this. They were starting to get a little bit less, or they were starting to allow people in that didn't toe the church line. So you had Grandma Blowjob herself, Mary Whitehouse, fighting this one-woman crusade on behalf of the church. And there is a very clever spitting image sketch, actually, of her. Somebody asks her, Mary, you're watching all these programs, saying this isn't acceptable, that's not acceptable, it's going to affect the world. Why aren't they affecting you? Because I'm very pious and I go to church. Now, get out, get out. And she's there just frothing at the mouth and then starts machine gunning the cat. So it's all this pious... I mean, I can understand the reasoning at the time, because television was changing massively. Society was changing massively. There was a great upheaval in the 60s and 70s. But there was, when Life of Brian came out, there was an interview with Malcolm Muggeridge and the Bishop of, I want to say Bath and Wells, but it's not. I can't remember his bloody name, what his title was. But there was Michael Palin and John Cleese arguing the toss with these two clerics who clearly had either not seen the film properly or just completely and utterly missed the point. They were just banging on about Jesus, who's barely in the film.
And actually the biggest problem with that interview is that Malcolm Muggeridge wasn't a cleric. He was the one that was supposed to be the interviewer. He was the one that was supposed to be moderating the conversation. And he was so biased in one direction.
And that's exactly what happens in this episode with the June Brown character. She hasn't got an argument to make. She is just, she's just being vile. I want to sort of reach in and strangle her. But, you know, there was other sequences in this I absolutely loved as well. I mean, the most hilarious sequence was when they're all sitting there watching a porno and the woman's like, oh, it's so ghastly, turn it off, you know. I was like, oh, no, put it on for a bit more. I've not seen any 70s porn. Let's go. I love the sequence outside the theatre and how that showed how a sort of reactionary movement can get out of control, how, you know, an ugly crowd can get out of control. I thought that was really brilliantly done as well.
And then the follow-on where she goes and talks to the woman who assaults her in her flat.
And it's such a hideously mundane setting. She's such an ordinary woman that's been targeted.
And
I
doesn't
think that's
understand
the point,
why
isn't
she's
it?
done it. She's just got caught up in the hysteria.
Yeah, it really did have some smart things to say. And I liked as well, because the other three episodes, I feel like Doomwatch is the sort of show, because Quist does prostrate to camera and make a speech, that it generally does fall down on one side of an argument or another. Yeah, science for its own sake is bad, or don't put out chocolates that encourage you to smoke, or whatever the thing of the week is. The best thing about this episode was it was entirely balanced and it just left you to come to your own conclusions. I thought that was brilliant. It was quite daring, I thought. It was very passionately put across on the screen, and it was really smart again. And I like the fact it didn't feature much of the Doomwatch cast in this one. I know I said it was an issue, but like the Dr. Light Doctor Who episodes, they should do different things. They should shake it up every now and again. And I thought what's the woman's name? The regular?
Anne Tarrant.
Yeah, I thought she was another really strong female character. So I didn't think that was an issue.
She was one of the regular cast. She wasn't just shagging Quist. She was a member of Doomwatch.
Do you guys remember in the 4th episode of Tortured Children of Earth when that board of committee was sitting around trying to decide which children should be given over to the aliens to snort as drugs? Do you remember that?
Yes, I do. And the elephants in the room here were all skirting around who it should be. Yes.
I'm not saying a word. I felt the same sort of discomfort watching this as I did watching that. I like TV that makes me feel a bit uncomfortable. And yeah, some of the stuff this episode was doing, I felt a little bit on edge. So it was definitely doing something for me.
I can fully understand why it wasn't transmitted. I think half of the problem with Sex and Violence is it was scheduled as the season finale, and it just doesn't have a season finale
It wasn't
feel.
scheduled as a season finale. There were supposed to be 13 episodes in the series, and this was 12. There was another one that was all rehearsed afterwards that was never made.
Was that sort of the end of Doomwatch, the department?
Well, as I understand it, I think there's very little in the way of production materials that have survived, but at the end of it, Quist falls into the pen where these dolphins that have been trained to attack people, inference being that Quist gets killed at the end.
Oh, wow.
But I think by the time that was coming along, it was recognised that Doomwatch has had its day.
But that's very odd, isn't it? A show in production and then just going, well, that's it. We're not going to do the last episode.
I don't think it was particularly normal, but with production schedules being so tight, because, you know, at that point, when Doctor Who seasons started transmitting, they wouldn't have finished making the episodes further on down the line.
That's true. Maybe Terrence Dudley had fucked off just about everybody. No one was willing to work with him anymore.
I have one very final note about the episode Sex and Violence, and obviously I'm recognising how serious and thought-provoking an episode this is. And
God.
My final note is again serious and thought-provoking, and I found it wildly entertaining that the singer's character's name was Dick Burns.
I noticed that.
Yeah, I bet you did.
It's my pseudonym now.
Dick Burns.
I'm tempted to say nom de plume, but but that's putting plume in an entirely different context.
Oh, he's off.
Can I say something about Doomwatch before we finish up?
Of course, yes.
I think you chose 4. Who chose these episodes?
I did. Yes, because Ken hadn't seen them before.
You chose 4 great
for the last 20 years, but
you chose 4 great episodes for us to talk about because they are very different. They're all very good. And I'm hoping with how we've talked about them today, because I never would have watched this in a million years. And I'm really pleased I have. And I want to watch more because this is smart TV. And I don't think there's a lot of smart TV around these days. I'm hoping you out there listening, I hope you give this a try as well, because this is a show that it's a thinking person's science fiction or science fantasy. I'm not sure where it falls.
Oh, definitely science fiction.
I think it's an oddly forgotten gem because I don't think this gets talked about very much anymore. And for how good it is and for the topics that it talks about, I think it should be. And if you'll indulge me, there's 4 shots in the 4 episodes that we talked about that I think justify the premise and make this one that is not to miss. The first one is in The Plastic Eaters, and it's Toby staring in horror as the plane is melting right in front of him. And you guys know that shot, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
It's brilliant. Yeah, I genuinely thought, how is he going to get out of this? The second one is the chewed up corpse of, I put Jenny Linden, but only because I thought she looks a lot like Barbara from Doctor Who and the Daleks. I know it's not Jenny Linden. In Tomorrow the Rat, the mad, quirky scenes of the sweets being handed out at the beginning of The Devil's Sweets, and then the brilliant sequence, the attack outside the theatre in Sex and Violence. And that's just 4 individual scenes in these episodes, but they're packed full of them. Please, please, please go and check this out. This is great telly.
And, you know, we could have picked 4 episodes at random and still had very similar conversations about them because there pretty much isn't a bad episode.
Just a little bit of housekeeping before we sign off. Dr. Exton, this is probably your area. There was a feature film in 1972.
Yes.
Have you seen
Marvellous.
it? Is it set after the series finishes?
No, because the season 2 regulars turn up in it in a couple of scenes.
Right.
But it's Ian Bannon and Judy Geeson.
I'm going to say, because looking at the Oracle, it says that, the script was based on a screenplay by Clive Exton.
Yes.
But they were given main billing over the series regulars.
If you ever go to Cornwall, there is an amazing little chain of restaurants called Sam's. Seafood predominantly, absolutely gorgeous. And they have a nice restaurant that is in an old RNLI station. And that restaurant is in the building where a chunk of the Doomwatch film was filmed.
Ah.
And I've had dinner there and it's lovely.
I want to go to the village where they filmed Invasion.
What, you mean the late 1990s series?
No, the episode of Doomwatch called Invasion.
Oh, sorry.
When all the tanks come charging in. They actually genuinely evacuated a village and then brought in a load of tanks.
And didn't they drive into something? Didn't they drive into the War Memorial or something?
Yeah, and brought up all the tiles as well.
Oh,
it does
that
look like
is
the most miserable village in England, though, so maybe I won't go there.
That is on the there's a wonderful documentary on the DVD box set, and yeah, I'd forgotten about that. Yes, they did. But as a final note, in 1999, Channel 5 bought the rights and revived it.
Yes, Winter Angel. It's not good.
What, a whole series?
No, they just did a pilot.
They recast Spencer Quist as Trevor Eve, I think.
No, it was Philip Stone as Quist.
But Trevor Eve was the main character.
He was.
It's really not good. It's what I'm afraid Big Finish would do if they got hold of the rights of Doomwatch and there was no science behind it at all. It's just this shiny what if that doesn't make an awful lot of sense.
They said in the documentary I watched about this series, they were sort of, how about this idea? How about that idea? They were throwing all these ideas up in the air. No, the original series did that already. There wasn't one idea they could think up at that point that they hadn't already covered in the 70s to show just how ahead of the game they were in the 70s.
Or how unimaginative they were in the 90s.
Very possibly, yeah. Did either the movie or that later version have the I love that theme.
I can't remember about the 90s one. The 70s doesn't.
Oh, boo.
And with that, that's enough Doom for this watch. Thank you very much for tuning in yet again, boys and girls. And thank you, Joe, for coming along. It has been a lot of fun having you on board, mate. So thanks for giving up your time.
Brilliant.
You can find Joe at Hamster with a Blunt Penknife, Hamster Book Club, Untitled Star Trek Project, and Finish Big, and Desert Planet Picks for Strangers in Space. Joe, it's been our pleasure. Thank you for coming on board.
Thank you very much. Guys, it's been a pleasure.
Thanks for tonight, Macy.
Speak to you later.
Bye, mate.
Bye-bye.
Bye now.
The Exton Moss experiment featured Simon Exton and Ken Moss. All featured soundtracks are the property of their respective producers, and no infringement of copyright is intended. Title music was performed by the BBC Symphony Orchestra, and the programme was produced by Maverick Productions. For more information, please visit maverickproductionsuk.blogspot.com or find us on social media.